Ever wondered how to use rice papers on your art journal page? Well, wonder no more because I'm going to talk about that in this tutorial. Hi, everybody. I'm Creative Katie, Karen Burchill. Welcome to my studio. So today I'm working in my Playing with Prompts book and using my 100 Pick a Prompts cards. I picked the one face and because I wasn't sure where I wanted to go, I did some brainstorming about what I could do. And then I decided, I'm going to use rice papers. Now, these rice papers come from NINNYSNAPKINS.com. And actually, they're their very own supply. So go and check that out. I will link them. This one is called Peony Garden Peony. You can do a search. There are similar ones that you can do. So when you're using rice paper, they are a little bit different than using napkins. Here you see me water cutting the element that I want out of the rice paper. Now the difference here is I'm using a slightly thicker liner brush and I'm using more water than when I use a napkin. And I'm giving it time to soak in. With the napkin, you need very little water, very little time to get that deckled edge. With the rice paper, you need to let it soak in to be successful. The rice paper is way more sturdy than napkin, and it just needs that little extra time. Now, you can use scissors to cut the rice paper out, but I prefer getting that rippled, deckled, frayed edge. I find that it disappears easier in the background. Now, with a rice paper, the cost is a little bit more than the napkins, but you have to realize that there are multiple elements on a rice paper, and you can use some of them, like the parts that I'm taking off, that can be collage papers on a background, become more of a background element than a focal image. You can pick and choose which elements that you want. So while this rice paper is lovely, and I'm using a big chunk of it today, there are parts, the butterflies, some of the flowers, the leaves, that I will use in future projects. So you need a system to store those so that you make sure that you use them, but you're getting more than one page out of a rice paper. Now, the problem I have with a lot of the rice papers is that they're so beautiful in of themselves, and you're almost afraid to start taking them apart. But you've got to make it your own. So find that element that you want, combine one element from one rice paper with another element from another rice paper. Sometimes you get rice paper collections, and the artist has already done a lot of the work for you, matching the colors, and you know they're going to go together. You can just put it together in a different way. Now, rice paper is a little bit easier to work with than napkins, less likely to get wrinkles, goes down smoother. It's just a different product, but related. So if you struggle with napkins, ripping them, maybe rice papers are for you. So what you see me doing here, I'm just moving around, adding water, letting it soak in, and then removing it little by little till I take off all the parts that I don't want for today's project. And then I'm saving the parts that I do. Once it's cut out, I can put it on here. Now, this is quite big for this composition book. So if I was using all of it, I might go to my 9 by 12 Canson Mixed Media page and do it on a larger substrate or a canvas, or you could be doing this on a wood panel. Now I have this face, this girl, and I will link that this is another um, Ninny's Napkins rice paper, and there are a collection of faces, and I love them. There's so many you can put them on different pages, so you'll get lots of use out of them. And I want the girl's face to be kind of peeking out of the flower, so I'm mixing and matching elements from two different rice papers. And my prompt is face, so I need a face here. So I'm fine tuning my selection. I decide that I do not want this flower in there. One, it's just interfering with, well, now that I'm combining it with that face piece of rice paper, and I want it a little smaller for here, but that flower might show up on another art journal page. So I've turned my book here and I'm still playing with the composition. I cut off that one little frond and now I can move it around and attach it. Now I'm gluing down my rice paper with fluid matte medium. You may have seen rice paper glue adhesive. Now I have never used that, but I'm getting perfect adhesion, perfect smoothness using my Liquitex fluid matte medium. So I don't know what the difference is, but I really prefer not having more products on my shelf or specialty products. If one will do it all, that's what I do. And, I'm just testing this out and saying, I really like what I'm going to, how this turned out. The rice paper elements are completely smooth, no wrinkles. I'm still editing. I took off that frond. I didn't like it there because I'm thinking I could put a sentiment up there and I don't want it to go. And then this frond can go kind of like a feather in her hair or flower in her hair, and it brings that pink up to the top. Now I want to colorize my background. This is Amsterdam Naples yellow. It is a little bit lighter than the Liquitex Basics Naples yellow. I prefer the darker Naples from the Liquitex Basics, but I bought this. It was on blowout discount, and I know I can use it, so I'm good with that. I started applying it in the background with my makeup sponge, and I switched to a small brush. And I'm using the small brush deliberately. I'm putting some of the Naples yellow, some of the white gesso. And I'm using the small brush so that I get a lot of texture in the background. I am going to keep this simple. The focal image, the rice paper focal image is strong and vibrant. I don't want my background to overwhelm it. And I'm going right up to the edge of where the nap or where the rice paper is, into that deckled edge. I know I'm going to come and colorize some of those edges a little bit. This just makes it blend all the better with the rice paper. But on the final project, you can't really see that there is something that's glued on. It almost looks like I've painted this on. Now this flower kind of disappeared when I put the color of the background. So I'm grabbing my white gesso and overpainting the petals. I'm turning them white. I want them whiter so they show up a little bit more. I had contemplated cutting that one out, but it just seemed imbalanced. So I needed it, but I, wanted to have presence. Now, this is called Mermaid's Tail. It's a 6x6 stencil from the Crafter's Workshop. There is a link in the description box. And I'm using yellow oxide. Now, yellow oxide is a darker, richer color, same family as the Naples yellow. Goes really well. This is adding a little bit of brightness to the background. It's adding that texture. And I'm just moving around my page, adding a little bit here or there. And I'm not worried if it goes over top of the flower, but if it gets somewhere where you don't want it, because you've covered it with the fluid matte medium, you can get a baby wipe or a cloth and wipe it off if it doesn't look good. I want to bring a little bit of that same bright yellow oxide to the centers of these flowers. So I'm just colorizing the centers of the flowers, making them a little bit darker. Speaking of colorizing, I've grabbed, this is alizarin crimson. I'm watering it down and I'm just adding a little bit of color to the peony flowers. I just want them to pop a little bit more, make them a little darker because the background is there and the background is darker. So to make the focal point, I'm just adding it darker. Then I'm thinning the paint out with water. And I'm just going to splatter with my fan brush on the page. Warning, what I should have done is put some paper over top of her face so I didn't get the splatters on her face because I really didn't want that. But I wiped it off, and I can do that because I used the fluid matte medium and it sealed the paper. I want to add a little bit of black or gray into the background, a little bit of something. So I grabbed a script stamp. I have several of different sizes, and I'm just stamping with my archival ink. And I am overlapping on the peonies and the background and the girl's face. And the reason for that is I want this to look like it's a flat surface, and it just kind of melds everything together nicely. I think I need to re-ink my ink pad. So now I'm taking some of that alizarin crimson and I'm just shading. I'm getting this white flower, a little bit of a rosy haze, bringing that pink down. And then I'm taking white acrylic paint, or maybe this is white gesso, and adding some highlights to the petals, making that white just a little bit brighter. Could you skip this step? Absolutely. This is also helping blend out those edges so you don't see them or notice them at all. Now that this is done, this would be beautiful on a wood panel that could be a home decor piece. A lot of times I do things in my art journal because, well, storage is an issue. And I can't store that many canvases or wood panels. But if I find something when I do it here and I like it, I can make it again on the substrate of my choice and turn it into a home decor piece. So I hope you go to the link in the box, in the description box below, click on more, and check out Ninny's Napkins, their line of rice papers. She's getting a couple new sets in as this video goes to get released. So you will want to check it out. And if you, I know the faces one is still there, and I will put the name in the description box. And there's lots of garden ones and flowers ones, as well as I think there's another face one coming, and I'll be anxious to get that one. I love incorporating faces. I grabbed my general charcoals pencil and I'm just outlining the leaves. This is adding a little bit of black detailing. Now, charcoal pencil, it will smudge and it will reactivate with water. But I know this is the last step or very close to the last step. I'm not putting any wet liquid on here, so I am not worried about it smudging. If this was on a canvas and I knew I was going to varnish it, I would not do this step, or I would do it with a different product that wasn't going to be water activated. Or if I used it, I would spray it with um, a sealer before I varnished to get it in. So something to think about. Now I wanted a sentiment, but I decided I wanted black. For some reason I thought the black with the pink and the yellow would look really good. So I grabbed, this is a Tim Holtz letter stamp. They're foam stamps and they're not really sticking onto my acrylic blocks. Um, so I'm having a little problem with that. Not all of them were sticking. This one did. And I'm dipping them into black acrylic paint and stamping. Now I restamped the B and the L kind of fell off. It wasn't sticking on my block. So, but I'm making it work one way or another. You can draw yourself a guideline to get it perfectly straight, or you can go for the imperfection of it all and embrace it. And I'm wiping off the black acrylic paint after I stamp with it. I'm liking the boldness of the black with the brightness of the rice paper focal points. If you want it darker, you can take some black acrylic paint and just paint in those areas. If you like it more grungy, you might want to leave it with the imperfections. Again, a personal choice. No right or wrong. There's what you like and go with that. I did contemplate splattering with gold. I did contemplate splattering with black, but I did neither. Again, individual choice. Here are the close-ups of the finished page. I love how this came together. Working with the rice paper was super easy. Um, and really, this page was very simple. Anyone can do it. Now go get creative.